We live in a world where perfect is king. It's this ideal that we want to achieve. We describe so many things with the word perfect. The perfect holiday, the perfect spouse, the perfect child, the perfect meal. We sometimes want to appear perfect to others. We hide our flaws so that people think we're closer to the ideal than we really are. We look at our TV and social media and are presented with image after image after image of people's perfect lives and perfect ways of doing things. We want to be more like that. Our children aren't immune to this concept of perfect, and it's damaging them. They look at themselves and they think, I'm not perfect, I'm not like that, I'm nowhere near perfect. And so we assure them that they are. You're perfect just the way you are. And we held up this ideal of perfect to them and say that they've achieved it. Perfect is something that they can achieve now, and we want to let them know they have it. Except we know that they haven't, and we know that we haven't. We set our children and ourselves up for failure if perfect is what we think we're supposed to be now. The truth is much more liberating. Romans 3:23, Paul tells us, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Jesus died and rose again so that we could have a relationship with God forever. We aren't perfect. We cannot be perfect on this earth. He is our perfect. We are all on a journey of transformation, of becoming daily more and more like Him. And that means that at any one point, we are in the middle of our transformation. We are in the in-between, always on our journey towards becoming more like Him. And that's a beautiful thing. We as a nation love baking shows. Stick with me if you're not that person, but in general, we love baking shows. They're shows where home bakers like you and me, more better than us, come together and they do trials and tests and compete to make something wonderful. It often starts off with a picture, this hand-drawn gorgeousness of what they're planning on making. And somebody describes it to you. It's, Susie is going to be making a Belgian chocolate foofy flippy whippy thing with saffron creme roulade and gold dust sprinkled off Moldovan feet. I don't know. They describe it beautifully. And then we get to watch them try to make it. The ups and the downs, the new techniques, the successes, the tragic failures. We love it. It wouldn't be as fun if we just showed us a picture and then in walked the finished product. It'd be boring. We'd be missing out on the most significant part. What's enjoyable to watch is the journey, is the trying and the making mistakes and the needing someone else to help you and watching simple ingredients become something that is bigger than what it looks like initially. The absolute joy of transformation. And that's what God does with us. He doesn't just snap His fingers and make us perfect. He walks alongside of us and transforms us every day to become more and more like Him. It's a wonderful process. There's beauty in it. There's precious moments in it. There is wonder in the joy of becoming, in the journey that God has us on. What is wonderful is that God doesn't wait for us to be perfect before He uses us for His kingdom. God is out in the world. He is active and He is powerful and He is doing things. He is bringing his peace and his comfort. He is weaving together all things for good. And he invites us, imperfect as we are, to be a small part of his great plans. Paul and God were talking about this in Scripture, and we hear a little bit of their interaction. And God told Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Our weaknesses create space for God's power. And so as we're imperfect on our journeys of transformation, it would be silly to judge ourselves, to be angry at ourselves, to discount ourselves for being imperfect on our journey, because that's where God is. He uses us on the journey of transformation.
Picture it like a baker making a cake. The baker has a plan, a dream of what this cake is going to be. She purchases all the ingredients and she begins the process of creation, making this masterpiece. Now, how foolish would we be if we looked at a bowl of batter and scoffed at it, judging it for being ugly? That's a terrible looking cake, we can think. But it's not finished yet. We can't judge it when it's halfway through. But nor can we look at a bowl of delicious batter and say, "Oh, that is the most beautiful cake that has ever been made in the world. It's so complete and perfect." We can't do that either because it's still not finished yet. But what we can do is celebrate every stage. We can enjoy the putting in the container cakes and sample the batter as it goes. We can enjoy the process because it's a journey of transformation towards a final glorious finish. Our children are on the journey of transformation. God is transforming them to be more like him, and they're not finished yet. And neither am I, and neither are you. But we as parents get to join our children on the journey of their transformation. We can make them feel comfortable and confident and empowered as they, day by day, become more and more into who God is shaping them to be. When we begin to understand that our core of confidence is in God and not ourselves, we can begin to grasp that who I am today is not who I am going to be tomorrow, and that I am constantly changing. And that's a really good and delightful journey. What's so powerful to our children is stories of transformation, particularly your stories of transformation, my stories of transformation, because our kids need to know what it looks like in the average, everyday bits of life. When you tell your stories of how you are changing, what God is working on you about, and what you're talking about with him, share stories of times in your life now and in the past when you changed, when God showed you something, when something happened in your life and you are better and more Christ-like now than you were then because of what happened to you. When you apologize to your kids for the times that you mess up, because I mess up a lot in my life. I apologize a lot to my kid. And when we apologize to our children, it's a great opportunity to say, "I'm sorry, I'm still not finished yet. I'm imperfect and I'm on a journey, and God's been talking to me about my anger or about how I speak to you or how graceful I want to be, and I'm going to get better because God's working on me." When you apologize, invite people over to your house. Talk about the labels that you have on you and how you want to get them off. When you sit down and read the Bible at bedtime, read stories of transformation. There are so many people in Scripture who transform: Moses and Joseph and David, even all the disciples. They were constantly changing and growing and being different. As you settle together at night and debrief your days and talk about the Bible and you, share those stories of transformation so that becoming different and going through changes and not being perfect yet become a normal part of life and a delightful part of your journeying side by side with your kid. Becoming a new person, becoming more like Christ, is just part of a normal Christian life. and your stories help your kids see that.
One way we can really shape how our children think is in what we draw their attention to. See, it's something we as parents do unconsciously all the time. We're commenting on the world. We watch television and we comment. We are at our kids' recital and we comment. We are in the car and we comment. We're commenting all the time. And our children are taking all of those comments and putting them into an understanding of what we value in the world. So when we watch television and we are making comments on how we think about the people that we see, they're internally checking that. One of my friends had a parent who was constantly commenting on how the people looked. She would say positive things. Oh, doesn't she look beautiful today? Or, oh, he's lost weight. Look at him. Or, oh, he looks so handsome now. And this friend grew up really valuing how she viewed herself on the outside. She thought everyone was judging her constantly on what she looked, and she became nervous and anxious about what she looked like. Just from one parent trying to be positively making comments on appearance, she began to internalize that. We make comments all the time, and this can help our kids when it comes to confidence and perfection. You see, we don't have to comment on everything. We can comment on things that form foundations for our kids. Things like character and effort and progress and transformation. When we're watching television, rather than commenting on appearance, we can comment on how brave someone was or how much we admire what they've done. How you comment creates a foundation of how children view themselves in the world. Debriefing with our kids is a great way of helping them see what we see, because we're talking about their day and asking them how they felt and what we see in their experience. So if you want your kid to see the character and effort and transformation that you see, you can begin to comment on it. Like if your kid was in a nativity play and forgot her line, rather than assure her that it was fine and perfect just the way it was, you can draw her attention to the fact that she found her peace right after she did it. You can tell her how proud you are of her when she sat down and sung joyfully rather than let her mistake collapse her confidence. If your son is a football player and loves being on the team but isn't the star player, you can draw his attention to how encouraging he is and how his encouragement changed the way his teammates felt, how his grace on the pitch changed the atmosphere of what it was like. There are so many things we can draw our children's attention to. I mean, we can even do this in the middle of discipline. There was a family that I heard of whose child was a kicker who kicked when he was upset. And after a particularly big emotional event, the parent came in to debrief with him. And rather than spend the whole time telling him off for his anger, this one time the kid didn't kick. This time he screamed and yelled, and as he started to use his body to emote, he stopped himself. And she said, "I'm so proud of you. I saw you think about it. I saw you control yourself. I am so happy with how you're growing and progressing." Rather than all of our kids seeing failure or mistakes, we can show them, sample the batter of the joy of the middle of their transformation, and show them the beauty and wonder that is in them, that God is shaping in them, and what we admire in them. What you comment on helps the children see what you see in them and what God sees in them. Language matters. Language forms a foundation for how our children see the world and interact with it. And we can use that to create a real powerful environment for them. Parents use foundational phrases all the time. Do you remember when you were a child and your parents would say the same thing over and over and over again? These phrases that get just stuck in your head, like, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Or life's not fair, or in my circumstance, if you get lost, hug a tree. Whatever your parents say, they get stuck in there. You can chant it with them as they say it over again. They form a foundation for how we think. And we can use that to give our children foundational phrases that help them understand their journey of transformation.
But there are deeper things that parents say that stick with their children. Have you ever been in the midst of parenting and your child does something and out of your mouth comes a phrase that is completely from your parents? Just almost involuntarily, you just say exactly what your parents used to say to you. Something in the way that they parented you got so deep inside of you that you came out and say it. We as parents have the opportunity to put phrases into our children's minds that can last a lifetime. But what's so significant is we can give them helpful phrases, phrases that will help them grow in confidence in being not finished yet on the journey of transformation with God. But only you will know what phrases will work with your kids. You're the expert in your own children. There was one family who had children who really struggled with speaking badly about themselves. When they made a mistake, they would get really angry or upset, and they would say things to themselves like, "Oh, you're stupid," or "You're useless." And their parents' hearts were just breaking hearing this. And so they decided to come up with a phrase that was simply, "Mistakes are just learning." That's what they said over and over to their kids. It's okay, mistakes are just learning. Look what you learned from that. And over a little bit of time, these children absolutely transformed from children who were angry and frustrated and down on themselves to kids who would confidently make a mistake and say, "It's okay, mistakes are just learning." Whatever phrase will work with your children, invent it. Start saying it. From, "I don't expect you to be perfect, just growing." Or even simply, "I'm not finished yet." If you and others in your family can say, "I'm not finished yet," or "I don't expect you to be perfect," you'll create a community of a family all on the journey together. So what phrases do your kids need?
Don't worry about doing this all perfectly. That's the whole point. Nobody does this perfectly. But every time you create windows into your journey of transformation, or draw your child's attention to character development and other people's journeys, or you use a foundational phrase over and over again, you help your child on their journey. And remember, God is awesome and holy, and He loves you totally. He is daily transforming you to be more like Him, and you're not finished yet. And He's inviting you into His great plans for this world, just as you are. And that includes His plans for your children. You are not alone. Journeying alongside an ever-changing child is hard. They are changing, and they're up and down, and their character is being shaped, and you are on a journey of a lifetime with them. You're doing great.